Welcome back to my backyard snack yard on quite an overcast Sunday morning here. I'm outside in the garden. We've had lots and lots of work done on our garden this week. We had some builders come around and they dug a big trench and dug up some plants, and we're fixing our drainage, which is a real blessing to have that done before winter, but it did mean that it was quite disruptive. I guess the garden was looking worse for wear. And in the midst of it all, I had a plant delivery, and it was intentional. It wasn't the best planning, but I was pleased I got it in the end when I did, because shortly after ordering the plants, which are unusual, they were sold out. So maybe I got the last ones, possibly. And I'm really pleased I did. Let me show them to you. There are these two beauties here. They're quite small. I think they're between 1 and 2 years old, even though I guess plants take a while to get going. And they are Cornelian cherries, also known as Cornus. Very frequently they're grown as hedging plants here. And so what you get is some beautiful yellow flowers in the very late winter, sort of about February time, which is really early when everything else is quite grey. And so they're a real blessing then. And then they develop into wonderful red cherry-like berries, which are said to taste like a mixture of a tart cherry and a cranberry. And you can make them into sauces, which really taste a lot like cranberry sauce. So you can add some, oranges, which I have over there, and that sort of thing into the sauce and make it really cranberry-esque, which sounds like a really nice thing. I'm trying to grow my own cranberries, so this is going to be a fun thing to have some extra berries that could be like that. I have some high bush cranberries, which are also known as viburnums, and then I have regular cranberries as well, which had a few of the first berries this year, and then I even have lingonberries, which are miniature cranberries and taste and look just like regular cranberries, but are just smaller. And then these guys now. And you can see there's already some fat flower buds on them. They do need pollination partners of a plant which is not genetically identical. So I've got 2 different kinds, and that was where it came in. That was like a little bit unusual for us, because very often since Brexit, it's been difficult for us to get interesting plants, especially named cultivars of plants. So I was really happy to find this one. And this one in particular is called Jolico. It was developed in Germany for commercial fruit production, and that means it's going to be a really good cropper, I hope. I have another plant, a Saskatoon, which is also one of those wild plants, one of those wild fruiting trees. And the one that produces the best, I have several different ones, but the one that produces the best is one that was developed for commercial fruit production in Canada too. And so I just think that when you get the ones that are actually made for this purpose, you just get the best ones. And this is going to be its little partner here, Casan Lacquer. And the berries look quite similar, just slightly different. There's a little bit of different in coloration, possibly in shape of the berries, but it's going to be really fun to have these 2 guys. And one of the best things for me is that they can be in shady spots too, like part shade, and that is the position I have ready for them. So I'll get them into the ground in a minute. My garden is quite sort of shaded. There's quite a few big plants around it, so it's quite nice to have ones that don't mind that type of position. We're in the middle of the foraging season here in the UK for sure, and the other day I was just picking my first sloe berries of the year, but before that I realized I had a bag of them still in the freezer from last year, and so I put them in some brine, just like you would olives, like curing them in salty water. And I recently tasted them just the other day, and they tasted remarkably like olives. It was really interesting. It's such a different take on the way to prepare these berries. In the past, I have put them in some vodka and infused the vodka with them, with vodka and sugar, and it becomes this really tasty liqueur. Sloe berries are in the plum family. They're like wild plums, very small ones. The reason I mention that is because that's when I heard of these ones. One of you mentioned that these ones, the Cornelian cherries, are also made into olive-like dishes by putting them in brine. And so I thought that would be so much fun, and that's what really spurred me on to find some of these guys. So hopefully when we get some berries, I think you pick them when they're still green before they turn red and ripe, and then you brine them and treat them like olives, and they're supposed to be really like olives. So that is so exciting. And I'll definitely be doing that if we get some, which I imagine we should. There's got to be flower buds. So let's go and find a little spot for them now. So this is the area that we're going to be planting in. And originally I thought I'd plant them quite close to the edge here so we can really enjoy the early spring, late winter blossoms. But I'm going to be planting a Japanese wineberry here instead, because it will really take advantage of the trellis. And then these guys are going to come a little bit further out. So hopefully we can still see them. They should get quite big here. This used to be a much more shaded spot because we had a huge jasmine that just covered the whole area. But now that that had to go, there's much more light coming in through here. And I'll prune back those guys over there and just make it even brighter. So it's not going to be as dark an area, but these ones are going to be fine in partial shade, whereas the Japanese wineberry does need more sunlight. So hopefully this will all work out really well. Just need to dig, dig, dig. And I'm going to be adding lots of really nutritious stuff into the soil because the soil is quite poor here. We have a whole bunch of lilies of the valleys growing further on, and they do super well here because the ground is so poor. So I'm going to add lots of fish blood and bone, lots of finely crushed eggshells, lots of really good rich compost or garden potting soil, that sort of thing. I'd say garden compost. And just get on with it. I'll also be feeding it and mulching it later on with some more homemade compost. So lots of fun. I'm going to sprinkle this mycorrhizal fungi all over the roots as well, and then backfill the whole thing with my little mixed up homemade mixture. There's lots of coffee grounds in there as well, spent coffee grounds, and there's really finely crushed eggshells, there's fish blood and bone, and there is some wonderful potting soil, just all-purpose compost as it's called. And it just looks really good. I'll get it in there. And then hopefully they'll do really well and just get set and ready for winter. They have some beautiful leaves here. Look at these. But they're all going to drop soon. They're meant to be quite stick-like at the moment anyhow, just like this one. But before we know it, we'll see some new life on them. So I'm really excited to have these guys. It's so much fun. So here they are all settled in. And I'm just so looking forward to watching them grow. I've given them a big feed with some after-plant feed just to give them an extra boost. And hopefully they'll get their roots right down into that soil and just start going to sleep now for winter and then waking up bright and early in a few months' time. So I'll definitely do some updates when they start flowering, and I just really am looking forward to berries. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.